Our first guest tonight says the Mueller witch hunt was an attempted coup to remove the president. Joining us tonight is Congressman Louie Gohmert. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee. He's also a member of the House Border Security Caucus, the influential Freedom Caucus. And Congressman, great to have you with us. Your blood must be boiling as you watch all of this unfold.
Well, you're a breath of fresh air hearing you. You know, Lou, you're so equivocal. You can't make up your mind how you feel about things is what I love about you. No, this is outrageous. I mean, it's bad enough that this thing has gone on for 2.5 years since the election, much less now we're finding out more and more was done before the election to try to keep Donald Trump from becoming president, right, and then remove him from office. And the fact that even after the Mueller report has come out, we still have Republicans that are pandering to those who can't stand the president, it just goes beyond the pale. Now, you don't find me agreeing very often with Jerry Nadler and Speaker Pelosi, but I do agree. There is definitely a constitutional crisis, and it has everything to do with that attempted coup by leaders in the FBI, the DOJ, apparently in the intel community, some there, maybe the top people, and who knows, right, since we found out that President Obama wanted to know everything that was going on, and we heard that, gee, we can thank President Obama because he's the one that set this whole thing in motion. It is outrageous, and somebody, hopefully a bunch of bodies, have got to be held to account, or this will not stop. I know as a former felony judge, one of the things you consider in sentencing is the potential for discouraging future crimes. It's something you got to consider here. If people don't go to prison for bringing this little experiment in self-government to the brink of disaster, then we're not going to last much longer. It's that serious.
Well, the Republican conference, in all due respect, and certainly I exempt you and many of your colleagues, but the Republican conference has a great responsibility here in permitting the Democratic Party and the special counsel that knew as early, certainly as early 2017, that there was no collusion, no case.
Exactly.
And they persisted and stole the 28 midterm elections and the House majority without so much as resistance from the leadership of the House, including Paul Ryan and some of the people who remain in leadership today.
Well, no, you got to admire the consistency, though, in that. We didn't hold anybody to account. We were not allowed to hold anybody account. Not Lois Lerner or Koskinen or Eric Holder. You know, the only way we got a vote on holding Eric Holder in contempt after over 400 days of being in contempt was when Speaker Boehner found out, oh, we could have a vote, make it a political issue, but we won't be allowed to enforce that contempt. That was real contempt. They were clearly hiding documents about Fast and Furious. They still haven't given. But this is unbelievable. And as I said in committee, my word, these people in the majority, including our committee chair, these folks have got to know that the contempt that they voted to hold our Attorney General in actually is totally inappropriate, because in the deal they offered last Friday, they said, look, if you'll just go with us to court and try to get a court to order to allow the production of the grand jury material, then we'll drop the contempt. They know that it's illegal for the Attorney General to release this information. You've got to get a court order. And yet still they voted, if
Jerry Nadler, Jerry Nadler, Congressman, had better hope that the Republicans don't decide to move forward into the courts with this contempt effort should it come to fruition, because there's no court that could ignore 6E and the requisite requirements of maintaining the secrecy of that grand jury documents. I mean, this is just And Nadler,
it's outrageous.
he may not be a good attorney, but he is an attorney, and certainly he should know at least that. And my guess is that a few of you Republicans have reminded him. Congressman Christopher Wray, and taking on his boss, the Attorney General, and the President over the specious nonsense of spying versus surveillance. Your reaction? And by the way, his sealing a document from the State Department that reveals all that they knew about the Christopher Steele and his nonsense fraudulent dossier they used to get spying warrants.
Yeah, well, Christopher Wray, people had great hope for him. I was hoping he would come in and clean out the bad actors in the FBI, but instead what he has done has gone on and continued to perpetuate the improprieties that were started by the people before him. He, for example, not only sealing a document that showed how bad the FBI had been acting criminally, potentially. But I go back to the fact, as I asked Peter Strzok about, you remember when Frank Rucker came as the investigator for the Intel Community IG, and he told you they had proof positive that Hillary Clinton's private server was hacked, and he said something like, well, you know, I remember him coming over and over. Well, by the way, those records have disappeared that showed what Rucker told them.
Right.
But Christopher Wray has continued to perpetuate the lie by issuing a statement last year. Well, we still have never seen any evidence that her server was hacked. It's because they have refused to look at what the IG had.
Congressman, it's always great to have you with us. We're out of time. We appreciate it.
Keep firing, keep firing.
You too, Congressman. Thanks so much. Congressman Louie Gohmert.
Thanks.
Let's bring in Michael Goodwin, a New York Post columnist and a Fox News contributor. We made a little mistake there. It's more compelling that the head of that committee is a Republican. What do you make of that?
Well, Melissa, I think that is why the president is surprised. I think a lot of people are surprised, myself included, that Richard Burr, the senator from North Carolina, head of that committee, along with Mark Warner from Virginia. Warner is the ranking Democrat. And they have made a sort of fetish out of announcing that they are in bipartisan lockstep all of the way. Nonetheless, it is a majority Republican committee.
Yeah.
So to have Don Jr. Subpoenaed, apparently he declined to come voluntarily. That's the one report I read. So it's somewhat of a mystery why they would do this, what they're looking for. You would think that if it was something significant, Mueller himself would have made more of a big deal out of it.
Well, they tried to, I mean, the explanation we've heard so far is they want to go back over territory that Michael Cohen opened up, and that the original testimony, according to reports from Don Jr., didn't match. When Michael Cohen said, oh no, he was much more involved in the Trump Tower in Russia than he let on. And they had been in negotiations to talk about it again, and you know, the president's son was like, I've already said everything I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So now they're trying to get him in. I mean, I don't know. What does it tell you about the tone, or how close we are to being done with all of this?
Well, we're not close, according to that. I mean, but it very much smacks of the same attitude that's going on in the House, which is controlled by Democrats, which is that, you know, Mueller is not the end of anything. Mueller is just the start of a whole new second round. And Mueller, instead of being the Holy Grail, has just given us, you know, more roadmaps. I mean, I think that this is the attitude. And as I say, it is a surprise to see Richard Burr go down that line because, first of all, if it all hangs on Michael Cohen, I mean, here's a man who's going to federal prison, is in federal prison for lying to Congress, among other things.
Right. So
about this very issue.
Very true. So while we have you here, you have an op-ed in the New York Post that says, quote, we can only dream that de Blasio is coming to his senses to run on a 2020 run. The Post now reporting that the New York City mayor is planning a rally outside the Trump Tower in New York on Monday night, or Monday sometime, to promote his take on the Green New Deal. So what do you make of this? On one hand, he seems to have phoned in your writing, most of his time in Gracie Mansion.
Right.
But he's taking time away from not doing that job to go protest in front of Trump Tower and talk about a Green New Deal that he wants to implement long after he's out of office.
Right. For Bill de Blasio, Donald Trump is just a gift. He is running against the president because he's a lousy mayor in New York, so he's going to go and pull this stunt, the Green New Deal. He's trying to find a place for himself in the national Democratic conversation, looking for a lane. I don't believe he seriously thinks he's going to be president, but he does need a job. He's term limited in this job, and he has no future in politics that anyone can detect. And so he's going to try to, I think, go out there and make a fool of himself on the national stage. Meanwhile, back at home, Melissa, you think of all the things he's not doing. I mean, the school system is not getting better. Instead, he's playing all kinds of racial quota games on trying to destroy the best schools with racial quotas. He simply is not attentive to the job at hand. Always the political angle. How does it sound? How does it look? But it's never about what he does. It's always about what he says, what he believes, how he respects deeply this and that. But his performance is abysmal.
Yeah, nothing to point to.